The fate of Diablo 4 is in the balance. Is it gonna be good? Or is it gonna be a bad? Well, let's find out.
We just watched the entirety of this dev live stream, or it's their campfire chat is what they call it. And this is basically their emergency session of discussing the latest patch that was very poorly received by the community. So I am going to break down all of the things they talked about. It's actually a significant list of things that they talked about, and I'm going to try to break this down as quickly as possible so that way you can save you as much time. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Now, there was a lot of like ho-humming about some questions, those types of questions.
Thank God he does this, because I will never watch the campfire thing, okay? If he doesn't do this, the campfire goes out of the window. Blizzard, you have been won. He's the only reason anyone knows what's happening in the campfire.
Questions were like that were non-answers that sort of were skirts around, or they're like the very near future stuff. I'm just going to say soon TM, basically, instead of having to explain their thought process and everything about it. There was a lot of dodges, okay? The ones that are very important, however, that the ones that are like they actually gave us either timelines or faux answers or new stuff, I'm going to do first. So if that's what you care about, we're going to start with that first. Okay, with that being said, Nightmare Dungeons are the biggest change out of this whole thing. So the tier 100 that is currently is going to be moved down to a difficulty that is akin to tier 70 that we currently have. So if you are clearing tier 70 right now, once the changes, and this should be today, this is actually going to be a hot fix as of today. Though if you're clearing 70s, you're basically going to be able to clear 100s, or that is so the way they have explained it. The reason for this,
that is ridiculous.
This is they think that 100s basically after the nerfs are very difficult to accomplish, and they want you to actually be able to do this content. And instead of having tier 100s be all of the in-game content in the game, they instead explain that they want to add new content into the game in the future, not now, but in the future, they're going to be adding new content to the game instead. That is stuff to do at the in-game. They don't want tier 100s to basically be GG, the game is over. So that was the first, biggest, most important thing they mentioned.
There's a plane flying over him, by the way. I don't know if you can tell, but there is this sound, and that's a plane flying over you.
The second thing they mentioned, monster density. Monster density, meaning how many monsters are actually in any given like circle area. The spawn of them, that is going to go up significantly, or they actually said substantially, was their term, in both Nightmare Dungeons as well as Hell Tides.
Big win!
This will have two effects.
Oh, for the Hell Tides, that's super good, by the way. Because Hell Tides is like, okay, you find a pack of 5 monsters, go find another pack of 5 monsters. Do an event, okay, it's an event, but yeah, we need more.
It will increase the rate at which you're going to be getting basically cinders and Hell Tides as well as experience. And then obviously Nightmare Dungeons have really good experience in mobs, so increasing the density, therefore increases the experience gains. They did specifically mention there are a couple spots on the overworld that are already very dense and a couple dungeons that are already extremely dense. The most dense spots won't be increased.
The overworld, by the way, in some certain areas is not just dense, it's ridiculous. I have been over the overworld, and if you travel the areas that are least traveled, you can sometimes find 10 packs of elites just chilling there, right there on the spot. But you know, it's like the weak 1 or 2 difficulty enchantment elites, so you know, that's not great. But man, you can find a lot.
To be even better, but all the other places are basically going to be increased in terms of density in order to make basically the game more fun. Now, another side point is Barbarian and Sorcerers will actually be classes now in the game. They have said that they are planning to deal with the fact that Sorcerer is basically dog shit, but they said it in other terms. Barbarian...
I don't know. I'm currently looking at the ball lightning thing circles around you, fine crackling lightning. You get the ulti cooldown. I think that could be OP, not gonna lie.
Same deal. They got nerfed into the ground, so they're going to try to deal with that as well. Both those classes are supposed to have this patch, and they said later on, about an hour later after mentioning it, that sometime, and they said production would get mad at them if they told them exactly when, but basically in a week or two, if you're a Barbarian or Sorcerer, you should be expecting some love. Now, inventory issues, they said they are aware that the new Malignant Hearts, etc., are filling up your inventory, etc., and that the Season 2 is still going to be when the gems now go as materials. So if you're expecting any sort of gems going into materials sooner, no, that's still Season 2, but they...
How do they allow this? Why? The gems are a problem. Everyone complains. Affixes and legendary enchantments are a problem. Everyone complains about it. Malignant Hearts, you know what? Let's not make this a stackable line. Bruh! What's your deal, Blizzard? Why are you so literally hell-bent on making it so that we have literally no inventory space? Why? How? I don't understand it. What have we done wrong?
They are adding an additional stash tab. They also mentioned trying to figure out ways to deal with the aspect, but that is a soon TM issue. However, elixirs will also stack to 99 stacks now. So you will actually have a little bit more available inventory in your sigil and elixir consumable inventory. So that's going to be a little bit easier there as well. That additional stash tab will be in patch 1.11. When that comes out, it will be a free addition to a stash tab.
Nice.
Now, moving on, they mentioned respecs. Respecs are going to be basically buffs for the player. It is going to be effectively approximately 40% cheaper. So you should expect that your character, if you want to have multiple builds, because they said the point...
Is it bugged currently, by the way? Because I'm playing my source and my respecs are like literally almost no gold at all, you know? I can respec probably 200 times at this rate without any problems. Is that correct? Is that how it should go, honestly? I'm not sure. But it's currently how I'm feeling it.
You're supposed to be able to have multiple builds and go between them. It should be 40% cheaper to be able to respec your character. There was no mention of quality of life in terms of actually clicking buttons to like respec all at the same time. Looks like they're still leaning on the score of amnesia, which is a seasonal mechanic, as far as my understanding goes, that will reset it once for free all at the same time.
So, yeah, they can't actually implement that. Otherwise, the seasonal reward mechanic or whatever it's called is going to be useless. That's the dumbest thing ever. Oh no. Resetting your Paragon. 200 clicks to reset your Paragon. Everyone, we did it. Pat yourselves on the back, boys, because wow, we did it.
Someone did ask a question during the Q&A portion that's appropriate for this part of the conversation, which is armory and loadouts. They did mention a sort of soon TM type of answer on that. They're thinking about it, etc. So we have no actual factual information on that one.
Okay.
Now, the next most interesting one is experience. They said they're actually buffing experience directly after nerfing it. So they're going to rebuff experience, but specifically for level...
Everyone complains about experience being too low when the game starts. They take months to boost it. Everyone's happy. Then they nerf it for no reason. Now they're bringing it back. What are you doing, Blizzard? What's the deal here?
It was 50 to 100. They effectively want you to have the 1 to 50 to be like a mainlined experience of like the major game. And then 50 to 100, they specifically said it feels like a job and they do not want that. So they're trying to make people to be able to actually acquire level 100.
Wow.
Even if they didn't use the term casual or anything. They kind of can't use those terms as a PR thing. But basically it sounds like they want the average player, whatever term they use, to be able to acquire level 100. This is something I myself sent directly as feedback.
That's kind of good.
In my previous ranting type of video. So I think that is appropriate to buff the late game experience, even though they did just sort of nerf experience anyway. Now, moving on to the questions. This would be more of the Q&A portion from the chat. They did directly poll questions directly from the Twitch chat, and we could see those questions were there. The leaderboards, still coming season 3, but they are going to add specific content for the leaderboards. It sounds like they basically want some sort of new content to also be associated with the leaderboards to have things to push, basically like a Nightmare Dungeon 2.0 or something. They didn't give any details at all. That's me speculating, but basically they want something that is a leaderboard equivalent in the future, season 3, soon.tm. Someone asked a really good question about Uber Unique, saying that the drop rates are basically garbage, and they said another soon.tm in terms of buffing it. They basically ho-hummed and said, well, we want it to be super rare. We don't want everyone to have them. We don't want people to build around them.
Yeah, I don't know about the Uber Uniques. I think the way that they drop currently is fine. I think if you spend 2 hours in playing, that you should have like a 50% chance to get at least one. One. Maximum one, by the way. Because the thing about Uber Uniques is the fact that they're literally completely busted. You will never find an upgrade after the Uber Unique. It's dumb. It kind of ruins the game. Like, there's literally never a reason to use anything other than Harlequin's Quest Shaco. There's just no reason to ever do that. Okay? And that kind of ruins the game, because that's literally the strongest item you can ever acquire for, your hat slot, right? So, how do you play around that? You don't. And if everyone has a good chance of getting one of those items after 10 hours, that actually ruins the game. I think that would severely ruin the game. But, you know, an item like this that you find and you will never replace, if you get one of those per season, I think that's going to feel good. You know, that's going to feel kind of good. But if you just get all of them, they're going to get nerfed and they're going to become useless probably because you're never replacing them.
You know, it should be a pinnacle item or whatever, but basically at the same time, they recognize the drop rates are basically garbage, and at some point they're going to buff those. When that is, how much that is, no information. Crowd control was a question mentioned. They said it's a problem, and in the future, they're going to do something about it. Again, no additional information there. Armory, we've already talked about the loadouts. They mentioned the times of barb and source changes are a couple weeks. Loot filters and target farming. They mentioned they like this idea. It's another soon.pm type of answer. So maybe, possibly, future, maybe. Moving on to one that's kind of encouraging. They actually answered the question about matchmaking and group finders for things like dungeons. It's another soon.tm potential type of answer. It's a maybe. Fixing skill issues. This is a definitely they're going to do it. No timeline, but they're doing it, which is fixing skill issue problems. Like if you see me with the corpse explosion death, they specifically called this one out. I'm sure they all had a laugh watching that one. And so they said they're going to try to fix some of these one-shot, in their terms, they use the word cheesy death mechanics.
I don't think that's a cheesy death mechanic. If you're a Path of Exile player, you literally cannot complain about this also, in my opinion, because it's your fault for not having any fire resistance, okay? The truth is, we now know, I think we know fully how armor works and why it works, right? But we still don't understand resistances. But I can tell you for a fact, one thing that I do understand about resistances, if you have 60 resistances in something, that's not going to one-shot you. It's still going to hurt, but it's going to hurt like 1/3 of your health. And it's not that big of a deal. You know the lasers that deal either a hell ton of damage or no damage? Yeah, again, just have a gear item that has plus 40 resistance to this, and you're literally set. You don't have to worry about being cheesed.
So they're going to be trying to fix some of that. They also mentioned that there was some bugs with things like the guy that runs forward in the Tusker charge and stuff that would basically one-shot you. Some of those were actually bugs and have been nerfed several times already. Yeah. Moving on.
Those things were super annoying for necromancers because they would you have maximum points in the thing that allows your summons to not be one-shot. Guess what? Those things still one-shot them. Literally full health minions, boop, one-shot. It's the dumbest thing, but they fixed that, at least.
Here, they said the cast time on dungeons. Somebody actually asked a question being like, basically, why the hell did you make it from 3 to 5 seconds on dungeons? Doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yep.
Now, does it? And they kind of dodged that answer, to be fair. They
did it because it's changes for change's sake. One of the stupidest things when it comes to giant games like Diablo 4 is the fact that even if the developers have done something that everyone wants and they want it now, they can't just implement one change. They need to implement like 30 changes. And that's how useless changes like that happens. Even though no one cares about it, everyone hates it. It's just change for the sake of change. It's literally like if you ask ChatGPT, hey, change something about Diablo 4, and it's like, done.
They didn't really give much of an answer. They said that, well, we added the reset dungeon button, which has nothing to do with the question, but they dodged the answer. Moving on here, what do we have next? Resistances got asked about again. That is still Season 2. No new information there. One question that was answered, which is kind of interesting, is that somebody asked about campaign bosses like Astaroth, etc. These really interesting bosses that, for the campaign, seem quite good fights. They all sort of smiled and laughed at the same time when that question was brought up, and then said, we can't really talk about it.
I don't know if I will honestly say that a single campaign fight was actually good from Diablo 4. They were all basic, easy, and boring in my opinion. But again, for you it may be actually cool. But again, I played Lost Ark. Like, Diablo 4 is not even the training grounds.
AKA, there's probably some kind of content in the future coming related to these type of things. Maybe additional pinnacle bosses. It's another soon.tm. They mentioned the crashes, memory leaks, PS5 problems, etc., known issues, and is actively being worked on currently. There was a crafting-related question about what can we do with our gear once we have it. They're acquiring new gear. It seems like gold's the only thing we can really do with it, and it seemed like they leaked a little bit of maybe crafting's coming in the future related to that.
Steel benefits.
Now, Necro minions as well as Druid companions were asking like the viability of these type of things. They basically said there's room for improvement, and then as far as Druid companions go, they said they are exploring possibilities for that. Okay, don't know what that means, but that's how they answered that. Now, treasure goblins were the one they all seem to agree definitely has major room for improvement, and it sounds like they're going to add additional treasure goblins. Seems to be the breakdown of how they're going to fix that issue. So maybe a D3-esque type of thing, material goblin or something. No details, but it definitely seemed they are very positive.
Material goblins are useless. You should never have a problem with materials. By the way, this is a tip for anyone who wants to start playing Diablo or whatever. Just if you get a weapon, just instantaneously upgrade it to the maximum that you can. Armor pieces, weapons, whatever. You will never have a problem with resource farming. Even if you click on 0 mining ores, if you click on 0 herbs, you will never have a single problem with any of that. So don't worry. Just upgrade, do whatever you want. There will never be an issue
in terms of adding that. Now, after all of these changes they mentioned, the other thing they did was send basically at the start of the stream and at the end of the stream, they did a full incumbency wrap up of basically, hey, we kind of fucked up. I'm paraphrasing here. Basically, they said that more or less they fucked up by nerfing without adding something in exchange. They didn't really say that the nerfs were wrong for the game and that they're going to revert them.
The nerfs
what they did say
is
that the nerfs feel terrible and basically make the game unfun, because while they took something away from all of you,
the nerfs, the damage reduction nerfs don't make the game unfun. Let's be real. If you're playing a good build, you're still one-shotting literally everything, so you do not feel the changes, okay? Let's not kid ourselves. And the nerfs are good, in my opinion. You know, they should have added something in return. Like, their biggest mistake was making this patch before the Season 1 actually dropped. Because, as I said previously, the Malignant Hearts 3 gem slots, they are literally 10 to 100 times stronger than any gem you could have previously socketed there. And let's be real, you only socketed skulls. So, you're literally getting a 10 to 100,000 times boost 3 times over. That is insane power, okay? So, I don't think the nerf actually mattered that much because the Malignant Hearts completely outvalue any of the nerfs.
They didn't offer anything at the same time. So they basically pledged to commit that they're going to do 2 things to fix this problem. Number 1 is going to be that the patch notes will be communicated before they come out to give time for the community feedback to sit on them in case they need to actually change anything before the patch comes out. This is basically if they release these patches.
No, actually, I hate this if I think about it. Because, again, I want critical strike to be nerfed. I want attack speed to be buffed. I want critical strike ratio to be nerfed. Crit damage multipliers to be nerfed. I want all of that to be nerfed. Because I want to have a choice between, do I go for this, I don't know, Fireball Sorcerer's build, and I go for attack speed and base damage, or do I go for crit and crit multiplier or vulnerability? I want there to be a choice. But if the community is allowed to do input like this, we're gonna end at literally the only stat that matters is gonna be crit damage, crit itself, and vulnerability. And I don't want that to happen to that game.
Notes earlier, people could have maybe like had a big pushback. Maybe they would have adjusted some of these numbers or something instead of retroactively having to go back and like revert stuff. Instead, they could see the patch note feedback before it actually comes out. One such example of this would be like the World Tier 3, World Tier 4 level requirements that then got hotfixed and removed out of once they saw the feedback of that was pretty negative. So basically, that's what they're planning to do in regards to that. Now, they also said one other thing is not only the communication, but they also said that what they want to do is add in basically buffs at the same time. So the only time that they're going to do these major nerfs, and they did say, what was the exact words they said? We hear you. We're never going to do this again. We will not remove the fun and power drastically ever again. And if we do major class changes, they're going to make alternatives as well. So to be honest, they seem very depressed when they came on the live stream. Seemed very bummed out. I can understand why. There was a lot of negative feedback around this patch. And basically their logic is, we can't really do another one of these, is what it seemed like. And if we have to make changes, we're only going to make changes by removing like things like vulnerability, but then offering something else you can actually build. They said that one of the mistakes basically they realized they made is nerfing everything like vulnerability, crit damage, etc. But they're still like the main meta.
Not a mistake.
These. They didn't remove the pigeonhole. They just made the pigeonhole that everyone's still pigeonholed in literally worse. That was basically addressed and acknowledged. That is more or less everything.
Boom.
In that patch,
That's nice.
or that campfire chat. That is
Okay, so that was the video. Amazing stuff, my dude. Amazing stuff. 10 out of 10, as always. Whew, thank God he has these videos, because I'm never watching a campfire. That's just that's an hour of my life. But this, beautiful. Anyway, this was Quizzer Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye bye.